So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Appeals Committee. Before we start, a few housekeeping notices. Please note that this meeting of the Appeals Committee is being live streamed until the conclusion of the item exclusion of the press and public, and the whole meeting will be recorded by the Council to support the production of the minutes for the use of democratic services. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone follow the ground rules for speaking. Only speak when you're invited to do so by me as chairman. State your name before you speak if you have not been introduced by name. Mute your microphone when you're not talking. If possible, please turn on your camera when you are talking. After each party has made their representation, the chairman will ask each person in turn if they have any questions or comments. However, if at any point you would like to speak again, please use the raise your hand feature in the bar at the top of the Teams window, and do remember to put it down again if it is still showing after you've spoken. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. So now we turn to the agenda. Could I ask the clerk if there are any apologies for this meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, apologies from Councillor Hilliard and Councillor Hedges.
Thank you. Have there been or are there any declarations of interest? Have committee members got any declarations of interest? Please indicate by using the raise your hand icon. So if there are no declarations of interest, we come to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting on the 20th of October. Is everyone happy to accept these minutes? If you have any concerns, could you put it in the chat bar, please? I see no comments, so we'll move on. So we take those minutes as an accurate record. Thank you very much. And we move on to administrative arrangements for this, for future committees. You've got the summary. We asked to formally agree the administrative arrangements for Appeals Committee hearings. I hope you've all gone through it. It's the result of several discussions we've had and informal arrangements to date. So if we could just go through by sections, skipping right down to membership arrangements. The suggestion is that we arrange all-day meetings where business requires, splitting this into timed morning and afternoon sessions, that we have a rota of 4 members or 3 plus a reserve for each session, each morning or afternoon session, taken from the pool of 7 committee members, to include the chair or vice chair at each session, so that this will enable a different membership to be set for each session to accommodate those members who can't attend all day. And will be asked to indicate their availability for morning and afternoon or both sessions for scheduled meeting dates until April next year, so that a rota can be set in advance for the remainder of the municipal year. Is everyone happy with that part? I can see one nod. I see no comment, so I'll take it that everyone's okay with that. So we move on to hearing arrangements. So the suggestion is that we operate with timings as to date, to allow an hour and a quarter for each appeal with parents attending. So this includes introductions and housekeeping, the hearing itself and decision making. Decisions can be made after each appeal or at the end of each session, not at the end of each day, at the end of each session. So in other words, after a maximum of 2 appeals. The suggestion is that we retain the start time of 10 o'clock and limit the number of school transport appeals with parents attending to no more than 2 per morning and 2 per afternoon. And if we have an appeal where the parents don't wish to attend, these obviously usually take considerably less time, but nevertheless, it's probably better to keep the timings, because you never know until the last minute whether the parents might decide to turn up. There are various alternative options, including possibly starting earlier at 9:30. So that is something maybe to look at, whether we think 9:30 or 10 is more appropriate. So perhaps we can have some comments on that in a minute. And whatever arrangements the committee adopts, it's recommended that these are reviewed in due course to assess how they're working in practice. This will allow the committee to amend arrangements as required, for example, by adjusting the number or timing of individual appeal hearings. And we may also wish to consider whether to continue operating with its own agreed practices or whether to formalise these in the council's constitution, for example, by establishing subcommittees. I've already expressed to Nicky this morning that I personally prefer the informal arrangement. I think it's working very well. We've always managed to have enough people willing and able to attend any session without making it a formal subcommittee. But any suggestions and comments? Anne, I see your hand is up.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Marion. I can't see why, when it's remote like we are at the moment, I think it's different in person, why we can't start at 9:30. When people have to get to the town hall, having delivered their children to school, it's a different matter. But I think at the moment everybody can be home by 9:30. If somebody can't, then they'll tell us, and their appeal could be a bit later. But I can't see why the 10 o'clock at the moment is the magic hour. And could we consider 9:30 and perhaps review it once we're back meeting face to face?
Thank you, Anne. Any thoughts from anybody else? George, is that yes, that is a hand up.
Thank you, Marion. Yes, I believe that 10 o'clock is a sensible time to start. I am conscious of the in the report, the summary for the quality implications for mothers and a protected characteristic. 10 o'clock has worked well before for the period of time which I've been on the appeals committee, and I don't really see a reason why parents would be inconvenienced for a 10 o'clock start.
Thank you. Nicky, have you, from experience, got any comments from parents, whether they find 10 o'clock appropriate, whether they comment even that is too early in some cases? I wouldn't want to make it later, but, you know, your experience.
Nothing in particular to 10 o'clock start. We have a little bit around lunch times with people working, but I find that usually they either let either our or Carly's team know if there's any particular time they can't do. But that is something that we do send out the invitation letters, obviously in advance with a time. And if that is inconvenient, we do ask them to let us know. So that could be that we do move parents around if it was needed, but nothing specific to 9:30 or 10 o'clock starts.
Right. So shall we stick with 10 o'clock with the option as today of 9:30 if there's any particular reason? Usually not, that wouldn't involve any parents. Everybody happy with that? I see a couple of nods. Yeah. The one that I find possibly more of a problem is the 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That seems very early to me if people are having lunch breaks, and but again, Nicky's experience will tell us whether that has been an issue.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I think we've had one pair of meetings online that has discussed their lunch times, and we've worked around that. But I say with sending the letters out in advance, there hasn't been any problems raised. And so if they were, it would give us time to move parents around because that is before the agenda is set. So, you know, it wouldn't make a difference for that. Again, guided by you for what time for lunchtime, etc. But that's just worked out on the 1 hour and a quarter per case at the moment.
Any thoughts from any of the committee on this? No, deathly hush. Nobody's got any thoughts at all. So let's stick with it then. Let's stick with it. It's worked so far. Let's stick with it. Okay, let's go back. So there are no financial implications or legal implications or anything like that. So the equality implications George has already touched on. Sorry, I've just lost the page. I'm going back to it. And no specific risks. So can I take it that we give our formal agreement to the arrangements as set out in this document? If anyone is not willing to, will you put it in the chat box? Otherwise, I've seen some nods already. Yes, thank you. I can see 2, 3 nods. I'm nodding, so that's 4 out of the 5 for sure. George isn't doing anything. He's nodding now. Right, we're all happy. Thank you. Not quite the formal way of normally taking a vote at a committee, but it works. So thank you. So we've agreed that. So the next item will be the first appeal, but at the moment it's too early. I don't imagine the parents are set up and ready. So,
Chairman, if you want to just do the exclusion of the press and public item, and then Richard will stop the stream.
Good idea. So let's get the exact wording up. Sorry about the delay. I shall get there in a minute. So, for the exclusion of the press and public, the resolution is, sorry, I'm looking at the minutes, that won't do. Here we are. We are asked to consider the following resolution, that under section 100 brackets uppercase A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2 in part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and that the public interest in withholding the information outweighs such interest in disclosing the information. Is everybody happy that we accept that proposal? Everybody happy? Thank you. No dissent. So thank you very much. So I guess we'd better have a slight pause now, about 10 minutes, and come back for the first case.